So we are doing a podcast today with Stacey. I have known Stacey for quite a while, haven't I, Stace?
You have? Well, how many years?
Oh God, I don't even know.
You've been in. Since we were
Quite a
kids, to be
while,
fair.
years, like almost,
Yeah.
surely almost a decade. But when I was reading your message, was your dad QRH as well?
Yes, he was QRH.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Yeah, my
dad
dad
was
was.
QRH, and we were literally in Paderborn or Senelaga. We were literally living on different estates.
It would have been, yeah. We moved over in 1998.
Yeah, we moved to Paderborn from Hildesheim, 1993.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and then obviously stayed there for until I got married. But yeah, it's different. So we were always in the same area, really. We were just never, as children or teenagers, we never hung out. It was only until we
No,
were adults. So like
that's
what,
true, yeah. Yeah.
2018, really, and then I fucked off to Cyprus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have got some serious stories to tell us, don't you, about your life
I do, yeah.
in the army. Why don't we start with the good times?
The good times, I've got to say. Um, there's some amazing times in the army. I can't say there isn't. I've met some beautiful, beautiful people. I lived in Europe. Honestly, people that are still in my life now, I've got to see things. I've had fantastic experiences in the army. I can't say
Yeah,
I haven't. The middle bit of it was absolutely amazing. I can't say it wasn't. And going over there as a child, and being part of something, and being a community, to be
yeah,
fair, was absolutely beautiful. The difference with me is because I was young, I had the German side as well, so I had German friends. I've
yeah,
got civil friends. I've got UKBC friends. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
wives. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was. There's some beautiful memories I've got with it. Really, really beautiful.
And
But this,
because we do have a community. Realistically, we
yeah,
have
yeah,
parties. We have all the things that we only really have in the army or a military community,
definitely,
right?
yeah.
Like some of the things that we go through, civilians would never even have heard of, right?
No, not at all. And
But
you make family. It's like you become a family with certain, yeah, definitely with
yeah,
certain things.
absolutely. Like if you're, well, my mum always said, obviously being an army wife too, she said that you never have friends in the army, only acquaintances.
I'd agree with that with a few of them. Yeah, I would agree. There's a lot that is acquaintances that come in and disappear straight back out, or, yeah, I agree with that. Chris said that a lot as well about his friends in that respect.
It's crazy, really. That is a universal experience, but most people don't want to admit it because they don't want to, put a little black mark on their precious little army. But we're gonna, obviously, there have been good times for every single army wife, really,
Yeah,
should
yeah.
have had good times, right? It's always good until it's no longer good.
Until you need,
And
yeah, until you need them.
until you need something, right? And it also all depends. It doesn't. I always thought, and this is where obviously I have learned a lot since doing these things, that it doesn't matter what your rank is. I was always under the impression the higher the rank, the more you get, which is in generally true. That is the general consensus, isn't it? But when it comes to when you need help, then rank doesn't always matter.
No, no, it doesn't, not at all.
All the time that you have been in the army, that doesn't matter. Or even if you have been in this lifestyle your entire life,
Yeah,
that doesn't matter either. So
no.
we're gonna talk about the not so nice things. Let's talk about your marriage to Chris.
My marriage to Chris. Well, we'll start with we were best friends. Met when we were like 17. I was 17 years of age, and we've got he was my best friend. He really was. We had some beautiful, beautiful times together. Really, really beautiful times together. And then Chris got poorly in Germany, and he got a thyroid problem, Graves' disease it's called. And basically it would have been 6 months before he was entitled to get his pension. And basically he was going to get medically discharged. he had to fight tooth and nail to stay in the army, because they were saying that basically, if this thing is so, obviously the pressure of just finding out you've got this life-changing illness, and then also the pressure of trying to stay in the army to get your pension that you've worked like all your life for, I think did a downward spiral. He had to go into hospital where he had to have radiotherapy put into him and stuff like that. He took his thyroid out, all that jazz. Um, and then we came back to England, and I have to say that I feel the pressure, because because they let him stay in the army afterwards, after all the fighting and everything and putting it forward, which I think was a lot of pressure on him. He went on tour straight after that into, I think, to Canada for 4 months with his tablets, and obviously to go on the range and stuff.
Yeah,
If,
of course,
if
yeah.
you read up Graves' disease, it affects your whole body. So we get back to England. Pressure is he's got 3 years left. And I've got to say that it started to be where we weren't us anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, we weren't us anymore. I was more lonelier in the marriage than I was out of it. That's how it became. And it broke my heart. And I didn't want it to get to the point where, because we weren't like anybody else. I don't want to say that as a thing, but it might
No,
have.
you weren't. And for anybody that doesn't know you, which I'll be hard pressed to know anybody in the army community that doesn't know you, you are literally just sunshine. You are sunshine and rainbows and happiness, and that is how I always saw you and Chris, and I'm pretty sure plenty of other people have as well. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't, you not being, the normal army wife was a
Yeah.
fresh of breath air. Like,
Yeah.
a little, hippie. You're
Yeah.
just with us hippies, and you
Yeah.
were loved, and everybody loved you. So I wouldn't ever, never, ever say that, think that that's a bad thing, because it really isn't.
Thank
Trust
you.
me.
It was, yeah, and we had it's that kind of thing, and we had the same ideas, we had the same goals, but then when we came here, I think the pressure of life and stuff, and Noah's difficulties that was happening and stuff like that, and the pressure, and we had to separate, because we were going to end up like a lot do, where we end up disliking each other, and I didn't want
Yeah,
to do that, and the emotion with it and the stress of it, it weren't good on us. It wasn't. And I believe that we had two different plans. I was ready to leave the army then. Do you know what I mean? He was
yeah,
ready. The chapter was done. And I think that's all he's ever known. He was born into it. Do you know what I mean? And I think he was scared. We didn't have a plan. We had a plan, but we didn't have a plan, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah,
And then, yeah, I was lonelier in the marriage than it got to the point where it was literally, we weren't us anymore, and that couldn't work anymore. So we had to go our separate ways. We did live together for a year, which was absolutely the worst year of my life. And the fact of it, it broke my heart, because I wanted him to see, like, we're here. Do you know what I mean? We're here. We've got this. Do you know what I mean? Like, when he got diagnosed, I'm like, I don't care if you don't have a pension. We'll live in a caravan in a field. We've got each other. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
it was coming to the point where, because I was depressed coming here, I was depressed. Germany was, as you know, I was there all my life.
yeah,
I'd
of
come
course.
here, and literally I felt like he'd just moved with his friends, his work was here and everything, and he just got on with it. And I was like here, like, depressed. I didn't want to be in Germany anymore, but I didn't want to be here. Nowhere felt like home. My son weren't having a great time of it, in the fact of being in school, getting diagnosis, EHCPs, and I'm just left in this town. And we'd moved away from the Tidworth area, because we wanted to get ready for Civvy Street, because there's
Yeah,
not many army people around this bit. And yeah, and like he used to come home at dinner times. He stopped doing that. He's like, at 7 o'clock, as soon as Noah would go to bed, he'd be on his game. And it's like, and I know that he goes into his game to ignore the noise, if that makes sense, to get away from it all, because he's got pressures and stuff. I get it, but we stopped communicating,
yeah,
and that we weren't growing anymore, and so it had to end. So then he left, and then, but then there's still that, like, in the fact of him leaving, and nobody help him, because in the fact of, he'd gone to Estonia when we first kind of separated, and I don't know, like, I think he was not having his cake and eating it, but he weren't making concrete decisions, in the fact of, it was like, is it going to work, is it not? And that was confusing for me, if that makes
yeah, of
sense, in the
course, yeah,
fact of, I'd asked him to leave, of course I asked him to leave, but then I asked him to leave to wake up. I didn't ask him to leave to not be together.
yeah,
But it was too late. It was too far gone. Then he lived here for a year, moved out, And that's when it went wrong, in the fact of going to families officers, them telling me to go on Tinder, stuff like that. Going
Yeah.
there. I've only ever been to the families officer twice as well. Like, and when I've like the experiences I've had in the past when I've gone to the families office, like you just said, there's no problem until there's a problem.
Yeah.
And I've gone to the families office. I got told to put my dog down. When we first got married, we had a dog, and if you remember, you weren't allowed dogs in law camp and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
because
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Chris was a certain rank then, we weren't allowed certain houses because of his certain rank.
Yeah.
So they offered us a house in Dole, but I was already working as a teacher.
Yeah, but Darl is ages away.
And
That's miles away.
we were literally in nowhere. It's not even near QRH. I was
No.
working as well already, in the nursery. And then we had a dog. We had our dog, Pebbles, and the families officer turned around and went, "You do know it's €40 to put the dog down, and if you put the dog down, you can have a quarter in law camp," because obviously we wanted to be nearer things. I couldn't drive, so it was thingy. Never ever heard anything in my life. That was one of the incidents, was obviously. And then because Chris was a child as well, and some of the people didn't get on with Chris because they knew him from a child, we separated years and years ago for a little bit. And when I got him to help, like for support, for us to get some support, they basically was offering me a divorce lawyer to divorce him, and telling me about the stories when he was in Cyprus and what he used to do with nicking the milk and stuff. He was like 10. And I'm like, what's that got to do with my marriage? Like, what's that got to do with me? In the fact of I've come in for some help, and like all you're doing is telling me about the stories when he's 10 years of age. His face didn't fit because of certain things from a childhood, and that's why there was certain families officers in there that our face didn't fit with, so there was no support. The same with now, telling me
Give
to
me
go
two
on Tinder.
seconds. Just give me 2 seconds. They're meant to be taking that to the neighbours, but they always fucking take it to me instead. I've got a sign outside saying, "Take it to the neighbours, I'm recording," and they still fucking come on the house anyway. Go on. Yeah, go on. I can just cut that out.
Oh, so yeah, and then so basically telling me to go on Tinder. Then I went a second time to them, written email actually, because basically I'm trying to get older people to help me with this loss of entitlement, and I'd put on the email, "Hi, can somebody please come round? I'm homeschooling, blah 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 blah." Next minute, I get a phone call off my ex saying, "Stacey, what are you doing about homeschooling? They don't help with homeschooling." And I'm like, how do you know that I've just messaged the, and this in the families officer, this is the clerk, a guy who works for the,
Right.
and instead of emailing me back, he'd skipped through the message, seen homeschooling. He's got a problem with me anyway, and then had gone to my ex-husband. And me and Chris get on, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of husbands and wives that don't get on, ex-wives. Like, they don't know if he's abusive. They don't know if he's going to come round my house and go mental at me. And also confidentiality, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking a little bit of. Like, so, and then they say, "Come to the families office and we'll help you." Well, you're not, because I've got no trust in you. Because the twice that I've been, I was on my knees. I've just come out of a 23-year marriage. I don't want to go on Tinder. I don't want to go on Tinder.
But even the sheer gall to even say that to a wife that has just separated from her husband after over 2 decades.
Yeah. Oh, and then the 93 days that you get, like with Annika Wright, on your 93 days. And because in them 93 days, I hadn't got counselling because I was trying to sort out my whole life. I've never lived in England. I've never been on the council. I was, it's like what is it when you're in a bubble of, like, I'm in a bubble. I've been in this bubble since I was 11 years of age, conditioned, basically. It's all
Yeah,
I've
that's
ever
what we are.
known.
Yeah.
I've ate, slept, and everything, and it's petrifying. Regardless if I was green and keen or if I wasn't green and keen. I had my own friends, but it was still consistent. It's still my life, and I felt abandoned. Basically,
Yeah.
I felt absolutely abandoned. Like, I've known some of these people since I was 11. Do you get what I mean? Since 11, I've grown up with these people.
Yeah.
And because obviously I've made a bit of noise for the first time, it's Shandapos. God forbid a woman, like a woman or a wife, say something. God forbid you say something and oh, you're a welfare case, you're a problem. Then the soldier gets it. Do you get what I mean? Like I am basically left here with nothing left here, and I'm not expecting the families officer to build me a house. What I'm expecting is some kind of support, some kind of guidance, not chuck me a list of numbers that I need to go and sort out, and then I get passed from pillar to post to pillar to post for the last 2.5 years. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. I've got one person at the British Legion, which is a woman called Georgia, who's been absolutely fantastic, but she's only been with me for 6 months. So it's like, yeah, it's all the confidentiality, and it was because of this gentleman. Obviously, I'd spoke about this gentleman before because when obviously the lads was away in Estonia, there was another regiment putting all this stuff on for the wives, like afternoon teas, sending them afternoon
Yeah.
teas and stuff. I'm an old wife. I don't care about what you get and stuff, but I knew that there was new wives in the regiment that were finding it really difficult, like really difficult. So I put on this post, pity QRH can't take a leaf out of your book. Within 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes, I had a telephone call off my ex going, Stacey, don't, Stacey, what's that post? But he didn't. This time he went, don't take it down. He went because my boss's wife's going through it. He went because before that I'd put another post up about the army and I'd got told to take it down off Chris
Yeah.
because it wasn't fitting. People were mad about it, but because the boss's wife was going through the same thing, I was allowed to keep it up. Not that I was going to take it down anyway. You know how I am. I'm not going. I'm not going to be told to do anything that I don't need to do. So basically, I'd kept this post up. Then this gentleman who works in the families officer came round my house with a box. You could make. They made this box up with bread in and stuff, which is fantastic. He came to the door. All I did was thank you for that, Keel. But anyway, don't be aggressive with me. I was like, I'm not being aggressive. I'm just saying thank you for the box. You got the other guy who's throwing dirty looks at me and turning the other way, like to make me intimidated because I'd said basically for 5 months, what have you guys been doing? Every time I ring the families officer to ask, is there anything going on for the wives and stuff? Nobody's in there. Everybody was on leave all the time. Do you know what I mean? The families officer, when everybody's in Estonia, seemed to have shut at 12 o'clock every day.
It hasn't changed. It literally hasn't changed. Like our wealth officer, I don't even know why. I don't understand why he gets the money he does because it's just go there, go there. I can signpost you, I can signpost you, and I can signpost you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they do. I have obviously been in this life forever as well. I can honestly say I've only ever had one really good wealth officer, and that was in 2012. But then I left, and then that was it. But that was one good wealth officer, and the entire
We had
time,
one. Yeah,
one.
we had one. Alan Brace, I'll name him. Alan Brace was absolutely amazing. A fantastic, fantastic welfare officer. You couldn't ask for better. That's the one I know of. The rest of them, no way.
Our one was Captain, I want to say Captain Turner, 2012, 12 Regiment, back down in Thorney Island. He was absolutely cracking. He was really good. He told my ex-husband where to fucking shove it, which was absolutely gold.
I think there should be civvies in the families office. How can you go
That
from being an
was the
RSM?
plan. That is apparently the plan. So
I hope so, because how can you go from being an RSM, shouting and having obviously shouting at your boys, getting them thingy, you have to have this like no emotion, which I get, then to go into your next role where you've got to be compassionate for wives, children and everything. How does that work? Also, confidentiality. You stick
zero.
somebody's wife in
It
there and
doesn't
everybody's
exist.
nothing. Like, come in, speak
Confidentiality,
about us.
I think confidentiality and army is just a joke. It doesn't exist. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They'll take phone calls with wives in there and then they'll just keep chatting and chatting. And then all of a sudden, that wife, like, you really do not want that to know, will tell everybody else. And that's how rumours start because, they only hear half the conversation. But yeah, it's not surprising to me that you're not getting any help. But, that's... But also, you only get, what, 6 weeks in Cotswold?
Yeah, 6 weeks. You get 6 weeks in. They'll sell you the dream of
Yeah.
Copgraves or whatever it's called. They did it to my friend in Germany. They also, though, in Germany, offered her a flight to Malaga so she could go and be a stripper again if she wanted to. She was a vulnerable girl, young girl, 21 years of age. Had only been married a few months. Her husband was violent and obviously had to split up. And he was an alcoholic because he was encouraged to drink, basically at boxing and stuff like that, and no help, no support or anything. So they split up. They left her in a quarter for a year and a half, and then offered her Malaga to go and be a stripper again. They'll pay for the flight. Why the family's officer was hitting on her at the same time being married. And then, because she didn't take that, they sent her a video pack with the video, the booklets of this cock raise. It looked great. Don't get me wrong, it looked fantastic, community, all that jazz. What they don't tell you is you're only there for 6 weeks. And then you get moved here, there, and everywhere. That's what happens.
And then if you've got children, which most of us have,
Mm-hmm.
because the lads want their little picket fence, and that's what they get, and then everybody else, women are then left to raise the children alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's fairly standard. But you can imagine having, like, say you've got 3 children, and then you literally go from your 93 days here to Cotswold because that's what they lied to you about it, and then
Mm-hmm.
what? A bed and breakfast.
Oh yeah, I've got a friend at the moment who did she's got sciatica. A few weeks ago, this is round here. A few weeks ago, sciatica, little boy, a fella's moved on with another woman, got her pregnant, and so what they said, they promised to come round and help her do a march out because they put her in a bed and breakfast. But they didn't come round, so she's done a full-on march out, done the gardening and everything. She's now sat in an hotel room and living her stuff's living in the car because the room is that thing. And she don't know what how long. She walks past her empty house every day, the one she cleaned, the one she did a thingy backing for. A little boy's got autism as well, and they have basically left her in a hotel room. She's in a bed and breakfast now. Yeah, why her ex-husband just gets on with his life, makes a new life, has a new baby in a quarter. They're not married because you don't have to have quarters over here neither, do you? To be married now, you
No,
don't need to be married to have quarters over
no,
here now.
you don't. But the waiting list, because married personnel always still before non-married personnel. You don't have to be married anymore, but it also depends if you're in that area where they're doing that kind of thing as well. So it all
Yeah,
depends,
yeah.
which is
So yeah,
good, right? Because how many wives get married for a quarter?
yeah, a lot,
You know
a
what I
lot.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
'cause,
there's a lot that used to do that. Yeah,
yeah, well, it's still a thing now. When we went to Cyprus, um, I was with Elliot for 2 years at that point, and we went to Cyprus, and there were so many wives I've never seen before, and I was the beautician for Paderborn.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
everybody came to me,
Mhm.
and so I knew everybody, and I didn't recognize half these wives, and they were all 18, brand spanking new out the factory, and there is not one couple that I can remember that was new to the regiment 2019 that are still together now. Not
Sad,
one.
isn't it? It's really sad because you do get that it's not even just like how can I put it? Even the coming into it, like if you come into it, and I've seen it where new wives have come in, and you've got wives who will come together and they'll make you the most welcome. They'll make it so welcoming for you. They're your best friend. They'll do everything for you. 6 months later, because she ain't gone to a coffee morning on time, or she's been with another person. That person, the bitchiness is unbelievable,
Oh,
and
the
they're cast off.
bitchiness. Yeah. That is the only thing I think I've struggled with being with this regiment is the bitchiness, and
Hmm.
especially from people that you don't know. So obviously,
Yeah.
I've never known it to this extent, but I would never say, well, you're lying because I haven't experienced it, right? Like I'm quite empathetic that way.
Yeah.
But I have never come across the level of vileness and nastiness that I have since being in London. This is, but not by civilians. I've got the most amazing social network around me
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
are not army.
yeah,
They
yeah,
are
yeah,
all civilians. I've got like these people. I met them all when I was working at Portobello. Um, when I was working the market for 6 months. And these are my people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
my daughter, she's 16. She came with me the other week to Portobello when she was home, and she said, "Isn't it funny how all these people know you and they love you, but all the people that don't know you in the army, they all hate you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's
Point.
exactly how it works because
Yeah.
that's their aim.
Yeah.
The army's aim, because like I've always been a social butterfly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've always
Always.
had people around me all the time, and you've heard rumors about me in fucking Germany too. And
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
people wanted to talk.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
You see, I haven't personally had rumours myself, but again, I have heard, and and I've seen people where there's been this friendship group, and it looks beautiful, and they'll do beautiful stuff, but then they'll turn like a pack of wolves on
like
you.
that, yeah,
Like a pack. I've
literally like
seen
that.
one woman. There's one woman. She was an RSM's wife, and because she took on the wives club and she was doing everything, her team of group turned on her, and she ended up depressed. She ended on antibiotics. She ended up basically on her knees. Basically, she ended up with no one. But if you look at pictures 6 months before that, where they're doing baby showers for them, and the beauty of it, it's like, and it's because that can happen as well. Jealousy, where your husband gets made up. I've seen it. The husband gets made up, and then they
Oh God, yeah,
turn,
100%.
or it really changes, or a
Yeah,
few wives will wear the rank. I've seen that as well. Not in QRH. This is when we was in Gutterslow, because we was with another regiment. We'd gone on an army exercise for us, wife's exercise. They come in with their husband's rank slides, and the guy was like, "Not in here, we don't. Not in here, we don't," and took them off him. Yeah, yeah. Or when my mum, when she first got married in Catterick, went round to her wife's thing. It was not an Ann Summers. It was like a get together, and they asked each wife what rank their husband was.
why? What's the point
Right.
in that?
Don't know. She had that. And even from biscuits, when they'd gone to this thing, a meeting about a predator in Catterick being around like a peeping tom.
Yeah.
And because she'd said hamburger, they thought she was like, there was an hamburger who was an higher rank, and they were like, "Oh yeah," and she went, "Oh, is it thingy hamburger?" And she went, "No, no, hammy hamburger." She went, "Oh," and then moved her to the back and gave her a rich tea. I'm like, "God, right, it can you?" Got full on digestives at the front of the thingy, and then she got put at the back. I mean, might have been worse back in the day. I don't know, but yeah, I've seen rank pulled quite a bit with it. Yeah, definitely. Or change it, like turning on them. Like 1 minute you're best friends,
Oh
inseparable,
yeah,
and then they turn,
yeah,
nasty as well.
yeah,
It's not even
100%. Because
really bad.
the older I get, so I don't argue with you, right? If you've done something to me that upsets me and I've told you, and your behavior continues, then I'll just, right, I don't argue with you, right? We're adults, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know that you've hurt me, and if you can't be asked to apologize, it's skedaddle, right?
yeah,
But one thing I've always done with army wives, like if an army wife, we all gossip, right?
yeah,
And if this wife gossips about another wife, but then I see that wife with that wife that she just gossiped about, I'm automatically going to ghost you, right?
hmm,
Because if you're going to do that to her, you're doing that about me too,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And there was an army wife. She was a new army wife, and her husband asked my husband if I could, show her around and stuff and whatever. And
yeah,
she didn't know anybody. Yeah, but yeah, no worries, can do. She was one of those wives that eventually started slagging off other wives and stuff, and wives that I knew as well. And I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And then the next day, she was having these girls over for drinks, and I wasn't invited,
oh,
but these
yeah,
girls were invited. I'm like, why are you hang around with me 6 hours a day?
yeah,
But
yeah,
you've been
yeah,
slagging these girls off for weeks. Like every time because the girl she was slagging off was her neighbor.
yeah,
And I was like, you've been slagging these girls off for freaking weeks. Every time they go to the car, you slag them off and whatever not else. And now you're inviting them to your house for drinks. I was like, okay, bizarre. And I sent her a text and she didn't reply to it for 12 hours because she was having drinks with her new friends. And I'm like, okay, well, I see where this goes. Haven't spoken to her since. And now I'm the absolute crazy buffoon, that just is absolutely psychotic.
yeah. because
Turns
she
out
kept...
that her husband was cheating on her with the neighbor.
Oh my God! Wow!
Yeah,
Wow!
and then her husband. The story goes that another wife in Woolwich was an OnlyFans model,
Right.
and he then found that her account and shared a few videos with the entire regiment.
Wow.
Revenge porn.
Right. Okay. Yep. I've heard a few stories like that myself with
Yeah, so they're now gone. He wasn't demoted for that. He was demoted for getting pissed in Kenya and running out on his bar tab.
That's what he got, but not anything else.
No, that's what he got demoted for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That is...
not the coke taking, not the illegal parties in lockdown, not the taking NOS, not the shagging another husband's wife, your neighbour's wife. None of that. None of not the revenge porn that's illegal. No, he got.
I've seen that as well a lot, actually. You've just reminded me of that. Like, obviously, it's literally no, drugs are not allowed in the army, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I know of one individual that because his face fitted in the army, he got caught on a handful of times of taking pills. And basically, he left the army. He left himself. But then I know other people that have been caught for other stuff and then been kicked out, medically discharged. Like when they went through that mad thing where they were getting rid of people in Germany, but it
Oh
was
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
they were getting rid of a handful of people because there was too many people in the army.
Yeah.
So there was people dropping like that. But then this one guy who kept getting caught, but I think it was because he was in the rugby or the football team. It was one of them he was in. He was in
Right.
one of them. And if you're in the rugby or football team in QRH, you do get quite you get there. So his face kind of fitted with that. But then I've seen other people be discharged for less. And
Yeah.
I think it's if your face fits as well.
Yeah,
That
100%.
helps a lot.
Like one of our neighbours, I am going to mention it because he is known to everybody, including the police. O'Leary Quinn, vile man, absolutely vile. He was a coke addict. He battered his wife like freaking crazy.
Yeah.
He would always start fights on a weekend because he couldn't handle his drink. He was having an affair with a man and his husband. He was vile, absolutely vile piece of human, and he was on guard, either Epi or Aki, one of them, in
Yeah.
Cyprus, and he got caught having some fun while he was on guard shift
Wow.
by himself, and that was recorded by another soldier. That video went round. I think everybody from PWR saw that video. But it didn't nothing happened for that. Nothing, and then he was a sniper, and then eventually too much happened, and the sniper one was taken away from him. And then he went on to sexually assault a child, and the regiment protected him. I actually spoke to his mum the other day, and the army are massively protecting the paedophile. And her husband, they're now separated. They were both popular,
Oh yeah.
extremely popular.
We had that a few years ago, just before we left the regiment. Actually, there was a paedophile in QRH that was getting
Did you
protected.
hear about the one in Barker Barracks who sold their daughter?
No, I didn't hear about that. No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I found that. I mean, I can't say that they literally at first. My mum was working in the same corridor as this person. He was married with kids as well. Been having an affair with the local cleaner. He'd showed her. He was like, "Do you want to see some kinky stuff?" Basically, showed some kinky stuff. She went. Listen to this. She went straight to the regiment. Showed him. She was the one who got marched off camp. He got to keep his job for a while they were investigating it, but nobody was allowed to mention it. No one was allowed to say anything. So my mum kept asking, like, I need to know what's going on, like, because obviously you go through everything, don't you? And you had like there was policemen coming in taking his computer and stuff like that, yeah. And basically, she got told to not speak about it. It all got found out. Nobody was allowed to say anything. He kind of stayed in. Obviously, him and his wife split up. They sent him back to England. He got posted back to England. Then he did it again, and that's when they got him out of the army. That's when they got him out of the
Oh, so
army.
you had to do it twice before they came.
Yeah, yeah. They just had to make sure. Do you know what I mean? Just to double check that he was a pedo. They had to just make sure. So move him to another place just to make a double check on that. But the saddest thing with that is I was bringing my little boy to go and see my mum in that regiment. He was going in that corridor. My little boy at the time was 3 years of age. You get what I mean? And these pictures and videos that he'd showed to this cleaner was to do with young kids,
Yeah.
and nothing at all. And nobody could say anything to him. Nobody could go near him. Nobody could batter him. Nothing. There was nothing. But then they sent him back to England, gave him another chance, as you do. Give him a little go.
They sent Quinn back to Cyprus.
That's what I mean. Like,
They sent back to Cyprus to get LOA and blah blah blah. Obviously, because of who the parents were and who the regiment was in Cyprus. Obviously, it came back on who this person is, and then he was sent back to UK. But yeah, they sent him back to fucking Cyprus, living the fucking life, mate. Like,
there's so many stories with the pedo side of it. So many.
We had one, but that was right at the end, because if you remember, when Germany obviously closed down, that was it was busy, wasn't it? Like, we were so busy.
Yeah. God,
and if you remember, obviously soldiers were killing themselves on Barker like it was going out of fashion. Do you remember? There was just like one officer and one soldier after another fucking putting a bullet in their head or whatever, not else. But it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And that's when all the pedo stories started coming out too. And it was a couple. And they were sending their daughter to other officers and soldiers on camp. It was crazy. And I couldn't believe that it wasn't in the news. And I was like, why is it not in the news? And I thought, well, maybe they just like protect the child, right? They weren't, were they? They were protecting the officers.
That's it. That's what was happening with this guy. He was being protected because they didn't want to bring shame on the regiment, obviously. Of course not. So post him out, let him be somebody else's problem, and then but then there's kids and everything being thinking through that, aren't there? Vulnerable children that are being exploited.
I have definitely noticed it's 100% you only get help if they can benefit from it. They don't care what you have done, as long as they can hush it up and quiet the people that are kicking off. Like, when I did these videos, or I used to do videos when all of my shit started, but back in Cyprus, and we were threatened. We were told that if I don't stop talking, that we are going to lose our housing entitlement. He's going to be sacked. They had planned on sacking him like that.
Oh, I had a story like this. My son in Germany, actually, saying that, you just reminded me. My son in Germany, in school, this is, Noah at the time was 3 years of age, couldn't speak. There's another wife's child in this school. There's an incident with these two children. Our husbands are away on tour at this point. The wife does no other. I speak to this wife. I've spoke to this wife. We've got on whatever. She does no other than rings her husband up to pull rank on my husband to do with the incident that happened with the child. So I did no other. Then I wrote to her, didn't I? And I said, at the end of the day, what goes off between me and our children, either you go to the school about it, or I thought you'd come to me. And then, obviously, I put a post up because I'm quite verbal when I want to put a post up. Like Dear Diary, my Facebook is, to be honest. So I'd put a post up, and then obviously, because I've been around a long time, she ain't one of them who intimidates anyway. But obviously, I had to walk into a do after that where there's a group of them sat round the table. I get on with most of them, so I went straight up to the table, spoke to this person. That woman never spoke to me again, obviously, because Chris had dragged me and said, like, the two guys had laughed about it, to be perfectly honest, because the husband's like, I don't know what she expects me to do, and my husband's like, well,
and that's what it is.
Like, and that's like you just said, like pulling rank and stuff like that, and no, it's all underhanded. I mean, it used to be worse, but I suppose it's even worse when you start to look into it. I didn't think it was bad in the middle because I had no problems skipping along. I had my own friend circle. I had my own thing, and it's little things like that. It's like nobody tells you about in the army the SEM package that you get for your children, and how much actually your husband can go in and apply for SEN leave so that they get extra. They get basically extra leave and stuff like that, and they get extra thingies to go to appointments. But not many of them will tell you about.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my mum told me about that because she works for the Families Office, and she found out all these packages that you can get. Even civvy dads who have got a send child can put in for this package basically, but they don't talk about it. It's the same as the rehab place that you can go to and stuff like that. You've got all these packages that you can have, but they only offer them to officers when there's actually you've got it for all ranks. But when you go into these places, these rehab places, it's officers, sergeants, and above, when actually it's for everybody, but nobody knows that. The same with this SEM package. I didn't know about this SEM package till I moved here. My child's been on the autistic list since he was born, and they don't tell you any of this. You can also get SEM thingy where they give you funding to get equipment for your home, equipment and stuff like that, toys for your children to put towards. But they don't tell you any of that because it's a fund that's hidden away until you find out about it. And I didn't find out about it until my mum's obviously works for the Families Office in a different regiment. And then she was like, "Did you know about this?" And I'm like, "Never have I known about this.
No.
Never."
And fucking how many wives do you reckon are going to comment underneath this video and going, I had no fucking clue about this?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't. I was so shocked. But, it could have really. To be honest, I can't. I was the German side with Noah over in Germany. But do you know that the families are sorry, the MRS used to ring me, having a go at me because my son was 3 months premature. So I was on the German side. They knew him. They literally. I went to them every time. I used to get mouthed at every time. Why are you taking your child there? You need to come through the You need to come through the MRS first. Well, I went, no, I'm not coming through the MRS because the last time we came here and he had a chest infection, the person there looked a bit off her head and was going, people have colds, people don't have colds, children have colds. Went up to the German hospital. Yeah, bronchitis. Yeah, bronchitis. I had to stay in hospital for the night. Gave him an inhaler and stuff. Before that, they're trying to give me, we can get you some cough medicine. No, mate, because the one thing him is a neighbour. It's all that kind of stuff. The SEM package is there. The SEM package is there, but it's not talked about. The same as all the rehab places that are there for any rank. It isn't just an officer. It isn't just a staff sergeant. It's from trooper upwards. They don't even get told that.
It's absolutely
So it's
crazy.
all there,
But
or they'll put them on a
I can
waiting list.
guarantee you there's so much benefits to lower ranks that we literally just don't know about. Because if you think about it, even like boarding school fees, like the CSA, it's only 1% of children that are like under sergeant go to these schools. Everything else is normally officers. Because it's not really affordable. It's because we still have to pay for the school and everything else that comes with it and stuff. But and we were lied to from the get-go about it. Like, we have spent so much money that we never had to pay out in the first place because our clerks didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. But then trying to get that money back. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's it. It's all the agents are there, but trying to get help is unbelievable. Like you've just said, like trying to get that money back.
Because
you're not going to.
The army is probably the loudest business that screams they are organised, but are actually the most unorganised place in the history.
Unorganised.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you need help, yes, definitely.
Were you threatened at all?
No, I haven't been threatened yet. Apart from in the fact of obviously, can you take it down? And obviously, I won't. I think I don't know. I'm a gobby. I don't know. Have I ruffled a few feathers? I don't know. But I've never been threatened. No, I haven't. I did get told though. I've said that already.
Yeah, don't get put down that you should join Tinder.
Yeah, I joined Tinder. That was a good one. That was really good. That was a nice.
But you're not the only one. I've had another story that
as
well.
The other one. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this. I went into the office. So 3 times altogether. I went into the office to see the families officer, and the families officer is ripping this wife who's left the regiment and who's trying to fight for her husband because her husband's been, went through a lot, man, like a hell of a lot. So did she, but basically. They were ripping her and saying, I don't know who she thinks she is. I don't know, like she's not even part of this regiment, And then when everybody had gone out, because my mum was there and everything, everybody got out. The families officer turned around and went, you're not our problem, Stacey. There's nothing we can really do for you. And I'm like, sat there like in headlights, like, So who is my pro? Who do I go to then? Because I'm at a loss. I'm not expecting them to build me a house. I wasn't, but I was expecting a bit of
Yeah,
support and stuff.
100%.
You know, like a bit of like just some
But
help
it
and
just,
guidance. You know, like
yeah,
I
but
don't
it
know, like.
just shows that we are only there to fulfill a role, and that is to,
Yeah, women haven't got a voice in the army, even if they've let them in the army. Do you know how much sexism, as you will know, about people being in the army or how they get threat? I knew one woman who'd got sexually assaulted. The guy gets knocked in rank because the officer didn't agree with it. But as soon as that officer moved, that guy got his rank back, not in the same regiment, and he's now, it was only a slap on the bum. It was only this. It was only that. Like I've got another friend who got groped by an officer at a Christmas do, and she's going through court now with it. Like you have no. And basically, he's still allowed to come to dues. He's still allowed to put funding because her daughter's got like leukemia. Not leukemia. What is it where they lose their hair? What is it called?
alopecia.
Alopecia. Alopecia. So she's got this fund thing going on, and he'd put under there with a fund, with his name and everything. So basically, he's intimidating, and she was like, no, because like she was going to keep her mouth shut. How many times has the do's gone on where you've got your husband's friends trying it on with you, or you've been slapped on the bum, or you've been big groped by them, but it's just a joke. He's a great guy. He's a good laugh. He's one of the lads. They're not brothers in arms. As quick as you split up, I've had about 15 inboxes asking if they want to sleep with me or if I want to go out with them. I thought you was my hello Jim over there. You all right, mate? I thought you were my husband's
Yeah.
mate. Obviously not. Didn't realise that. Been to war together, done everything together, but now you're trying to sleep with me
Yeah,
after
it's
I've
all
just broke up with
fake.
my
It's
husband. Nice
literally
one.
all fake, all of it. The only reason,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the only
Yeah,
reason
yeah.
it's still going on because the army benefit from women, army wise or military wise, being oppressed. That's that they benefit from it, right? And once we have stopped fulfilling our role, which is to shut up, make sure that our husbands' stuff is sorted, make sure that all the bills are paid, and everything else a housewife should do.
Well, you stop it. They say 90% of people who get married, you stop them from being a problem because they come meant to be. So they'll come into a marriage. It's meant to be where you get a home, you start having responsibilities and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you calm them down. But heaven forbid there's a problem. You just need to shut up. Like I've known people to give birth, and because they're giving birth, the husbands aren't there. They're only on a little exercise down the road. It's not even a major one, but they've had to have social services to come out to help them, or they've had to because there's family members who aren't around, especially in Germany. Like if you have your second child, they're allowed home, but if you have your first child, oh well,
It's
might be a
like
hit and miss. You
C-sections.
might
When
get it.
wives have C-sections, the soldiers are meant to be given 6 weeks leave. Most of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them don't.
No, none of them.
And my friend had a C-section, and in Cyprus, because in Cyprus they love to do
Yeah,
C-sections. Like that is their thing to do, right? It's a C-section. I was booked in for a C-section.
yeah,
Absolutely no reason, just because of time, right? I was booked in because of
right,
time,
yeah.
no other reason. And
Mm-hmm.
but my friend had a C-section in Cyprus. He was an absolute fucking bellend the second that baby came, and he did nothing, and he was back at work within 2 weeks. And to this day, her daughter's now 5. To this day, she still has issues with that C-section
Yeah,
scar because the army just don't give a
because she didn't
shit.
have
But
time
if
to recover.
obviously there's this saying, if you keep your wife, like happy wife, happy life. And it's
Happy
no
wife, happy
different in the
life.
army.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're expecting loads. We're expecting you to
No,
communicate,
not at all.
not batter us, and not spend all of your money on the fucking gambling fucking thing slots and then affy.
Yeah. I wouldn't know about the money because we never had a joint bank account, so
You had your own money though,
I
yeah?
would never know about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I worked, and then obviously when I had Noah, obviously I have Heaven's Gift, and when I had Noah, he used to give me €150 a month. But then when we came over here, he upped it because obviously I had to set up my business again. Before that, it didn't matter because I was working full time before Noah came along. But yeah, he was giving me £150, but he was paying all the
Okay,
bills. I
okay,
can't say he
cool. So
wasn't.
he
He was
was
paying the
paying the
house and
bills.
all that.
Okay. I was just like, just stop
Yeah.
destroying my image of Chris. He's a nice guy.
No, he paid all the bills. No, he paid all the bills. He did. He paid all the bills, and then would give me €150, and then obviously I had Heaven's Gift. And then when I came over here, but we never had it. We had a joint bank account years and years ago when it first started. And then after that, no, we didn't have a joint bank account after that. No, so I don't know I didn't know about his money until obviously the divorce came up, how much he gets, how much he earns, how much,
Yeah, because
I didn't know
when you said
any of that, none
150
of that.
euros a month, I'm like, your freaking LOA's more than that, mate. Like, freaking hell. A lot of women don't
Yeah,
know how much the LOA is. A, a shit
which is a lot.
ton.
It is a lot,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's so much money. And obviously, if you have kids,
Well,
it gets
one
more.
second. That's it. That's it. Yeah, it gets, it's a lot more, especially when you come over to England as well. But I didn't really know about the LOA. I didn't know anything, to be honest. To say how long I've been in the regiment, been in the army life, I didn't know about LOA. I didn't know anything, how much that is or anything like that. I don't know how much. I didn't really know how much you get over in Germany. Didn't know how much the Kindergeld was. Maintenance was going in there as well. So no, I didn't really know anything on
But
that side of it. No, nothing. I didn't
that's
even.
one thing
No.
I think the army should do better then. Realistically, if you go to an overseas posting, because we all get these little booklets, welcome to your new posting bollocks, right? Like, here's all the
Hmm.
important numbers.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself. That's pretty much what we get, right? But if we had an actual booklet to know exactly, right, these are your LOA rates because they're different in each country. This is what you're allowed.
Hmm.
This is what you can have. If he turns aggressive, these are the numbers you call. This is what you do. And
There's definitely, yeah, and a bit basic instead of like a hunt. I had a Paderborn booklet, which was great, but it had everything. Overwhelming, man, like overwhelming. Where it was just basic, like you say, a quick like I can get that right. That's the number I go to, and that is the number. Not I ring that number
yeah,
and then they pass me on to AFF, or they pass me on to British Legion, or they
yeah,
pass me back to AFF, or they pass me to another company. Just one person that I speak to. Like just one person, and I stick with that
yeah,
person. They're my caseworker. We'll stick with that instead of no, you're not with us yet. Come back to us in 6 months' time when you've sorted that one out. So you go there and you go. If you've been in Germany or whatever, or you don't know any of these companies, like I never needed to use any of these. Do you know what I mean? So I've never. And then these last 2 years it's ahead. I'm on the spectrum myself. So doing 14,000 emails as well as sorting my kids' school out, as well as sorting a divorce out. I'm trying to do all this. So a little bit of an helping hand. What's your family's officer for? Like I said, I don't want them to house me, but a bit of help, a bit of like, you know this stuff. Like me writing emails is really overwhelming. I'm not saying take my hand for me, but I'm on my knees. I've just come out of it. I didn't want to leave my marriage. I was heartbroken. It's not like I was skipping into the desert, like, thanks, guys, thanks for the
yeah.
time, see you soon. Do you know what I mean? It was absolutely, the last 2 years has just been a healing, and I'm just coming to the point where I'm starting to heal and I can see things logically and stuff. If I weren't in the quarter anymore and we were divorced, fair enough, but I'm still in the quarter, I'm still married, and they've got this loophole of it's been
Yeah, I
too
don't
long now.
understand
It's been too long.
how can it take 2.5 years and then they're like, well, it's taken too long now, so just carry on living there. Thanks for paying us rent, but you're also getting a trespassing bill, so do whatever you want, really. But
Yeah, you're just stuck. You can't move on because the council will not help me at the moment because of this trespassing. But I'm paying my bill. I'm like the lady that's helping me. You can't be getting done for trespassing when you're paying
yeah,
rent. Do you get what I mean? It doesn't work. So there has to be a change of law in this. Like your 93 days, there should be a change of that. That's not just for wives, that's for couples as well. I've known couples who have been medically discharged and they've got nothing and they've got 93 days to sort their whole life out. Also, deal with the husband's PTSD, which 90% of the time he's got, to come out, for him to be chucked into the civvy street, for us to be chucked into the civvy street, and then just get on with it. And then they wonder why there's so much, like there's videos gone around of poor lads who are out there, screaming, crying and whatever, and they're all taking the mick out of him. Have you seen this? Has anybody rang him?
yeah,
Anybody rang to see if he's all right? Anyone been round? Well, the family's officer tried to ring him, but nobody's answering. All right, so there's going to be another death on your hands, isn't there? Or he's going to get battered because he's going around drunk, shouting at young youths about how he's gone to war for him.
yeah.
Where's your
There's
help
none.
then? But you're not in the army anymore. You're not a number anymore. You're not doing what we need you to do anymure. Like when he got ill, you're going to get medically discharged and you're not getting your pension because
That's
you're 6 months out
unbelievable.
of it.
How can you
What?
say to a soldier that has literally committed his entire
Pause.
life to the army
16 years
to
of age.
go, well, now you're ill. Thank you very much for fighting wars and all that kind of stuff. And but
And one person came round to see him as well. One person. One person. The whole regiment came round to see
That's
him to see if he was
absolutely
all right.
crazy.
One.
It's apart from this welfare officer, I don't. He's nice, but I don't need a nice welfare officer. I need a good welfare officer. All the other ones have been absolutely freaking bellends. But when I separated from my ex-husband in 2012, he was amazing. Like,
Yeah.
my ex got his rank taken off him. He got put on a promotion ban for 4 years. He got charged because he was an absolutely fucking arsehole. Like, he had an affair with my best friend
Yeah.
behind my back for about 3
Wow.
or 4 months.
Yeah.
In that same time, I had a miscarriage. Like, I miscarried twins. You know,
That.
so I went on a
Wow.
holiday with my daughter because he went on adventure training. I come back and he's shagging her. And the way
I got
he
had a friend like that.
handled the
Wow.
situation, and I had a really good welfare officer. So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
helped
There was
from
a really
I
good.
had
Yeah.
British Legion at my house. All of that I got help with. I had no problem moving out of my quarter. I wanted out of it because can't fucking stand Magnolia, mate.
Yeah.
Can't, like, this is green.
Yeah.
That over there is Magnolia and it's driving me insane. But now, like, I can't believe how much has changed. And it's been, what, 14 years? And it's
Yeah.
worse. The sexism, the misogyny, the red pillness has entered the army 50 times worse than I have ever experienced it before in my life. And it's just not getting any
Yeah.
better. But
Yeah. Yeah.
what advice would you have to a brand new army civvy, right? A civvy girl, what woman that is dating a squaddy and wants to marry them and have this as their life.
Run. No,
That's
I'm joking.
always my first thing I say too.
Basically, no. Just really remember to put that thick jacket on, and remember that to take everything with a pinch of salt, and kind of like just make sure that you're working on it and talk. Make sure you
Yeah.
talk. Make sure you speak, and don't be quiet. Don't get into that little into that little circle of where you be quiet, because it don't help you. I've never bothered the welfare, and every time I have, it's been a shut in the face. Do talk. Do stand up for yourself. It is hard and it can be amazing. You'll meet some amazing friends. You'll have some fantastic times. But let me tell you now, you will also have some where you feel the most loneliest person in the world, where you feel like, and especially if it goes wrong, which 90% of the time it does. And half of them are, by the time they've hit 35, are the most unhappiest wives I've ever seen in my life. But, we'll go, everybody's different. But I would say just hold your own, keep to your true core, stay with your true core as much as you can, experience it, grab it with both hands, but also don't be a doormat, and speak. No matter how hard it
Yeah.
gets, talk, because it'll be the
What
best
do
thing
you
you do.
say about the comments that say that the stories that I post are lies?
Come and come and have 6 months with a film crew in the army, and
Yeah,
then see if you're
right?
lying.
Oh my God.
But
Undercover
yeah,
squaddy. Could you imagine?
do an yeah, just come and do an undercover. Anyone, if you can, pay for it. Get an undercover wife or whatever you want to, and like they do them false prison shows where they
Yeah.
pretend to be prisoners and go in. Be a false wife and pretend to be a wife for 6 months. Oh yeah, 6 months. Yeah, 6 months. You'll see it within the first few weeks. First few weeks will be like, you've entered Mary Poppins land, but then after that, 6 months. Yeah, I'd say come and live it. Come and just have an experience. And if you've experienced it and you've gone away and it's been clean cut and it's been amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
There's a few of you there. There's 10% there. But if you need help off them, or you're going for a breakup, or there's an emotion in your relationship, make sure that you're finding the right change, and don't give up. Please don't give up.
Yeah.
Keep